Hi there YouTube, Joel from Jonesy's, and this is going to be part 3 of our compound twin turbo 79 Ford F250 build. Lots and lots of installation details to cover, so let's get right down to it. So we left off our last video, part 2, dealing with power steering lines and a lot of the installation details. And as you can see, we've made a bunch of progress. We've got the front end on, we've gotten all of the intercooler mounts taken care of, the hood latch, the radiator hoses, shift linkage, and all of that stuff. So let's start from the front and we'll work our way back. So we went with a Super Duty intercooler. It fits right in there. We kind of went over some of those details in part 1. What we did was we took off the Ford mounts on the side, clearance the intercooler, and then built these little saddles here. So we plasmaed out and bent up a couple of saddles and used some radiator rubbers to support the top of it and cut off the factory Power Stroke side mounts. And then at the bottom did just some very basic rubber isolators right there with some standoffs that come up into the factory Ford cast mount. You can't really see it, but the bottom of the core support got notched out quite a bit so that this intercooler sits almost all the way down on the bottom of that core support. This is important to do so that you can get this hood latch set low enough to where the hood will actually latch and work correctly. So all of the hood latch mechanism is functioning correctly. We took out the big support brace, replaced it with a flat bar, and it comes down, and there still is a factory bracket that holds this grill surround in it. So it appears that factory grill will fit in here, and there might even be enough room in behind the factory grill to allow for an auxiliary tranny cooler. So pretty straightforward intercooler setup. It's just a big balancing act of trying to get everything to fit in here really well. So this radiator, like we said in part 1, is actually a Ford Chevrolet conversion, so that the mounts, the inlet and outlets are on the correct side to work with the Cummins. So hopefully you can kind of see what we did. We just adapted over a lower hose, pretty straightforward. Had to kind of neck it down because we used a factory original Cummins lower water outlet along with our high mount kit bracket. And then this piece right here is the air conditioning delete idler pulley. So you could take that off and put an AC compressor on there if you needed to. So that turned out to be pretty clean installation. And then obviously you can tell we fabbed up just very simple S-bend intercooler pipe. This air cleaner is just temporary on here. We're gonna run we'll come off of this pipe, that pipe right there, with a 90. It'll come off a 90 and then run a big factory style paper element air cleaner. We just have this little K&N one on there just to try to keep debris and stuff out of the engine while we're running it. So coming over here, also very simple intercooler pipe. This is simple, basically just a 3-inch with a 50-degree bend in it, and it's good to go. So some of the other little stuff that we need to do is we need to get a little bracket built to support the engine oil dipstick. And then that's slowly but surely getting everything wrapped up. Built a little, it's basically just a half shroud. The bottom of it ends about halfway there. You can kind of see where it ends. And this is basically just to keep kind of a safety thing to keep yourself out of the fan. So there you can see our adapter, just a simple, very simple crossover pipe to 90s to get the hose sizes adapted correctly. Used the factory hard pipes that come on the Cummins, and then some of the kind of the clean installation details that we try to integrate into is we like to use molded 90-degree heater hoses. So they come out of the firewall with an actual molded 90, and then they come right over into those pipes and come up, and it just makes for a super clean installation. This wiring wise, we just have basically things kind of temporarily put together. The owner of this rig, he's an electrical guy, so he's gonna tidy up and do all the wiring. So we weren't gonna spend an enormous amount of time trying to make the wiring look clean. He's gonna tackle all that on his own. So that splice right there is actually bypassing the factory Ford neutral safety. So that way we have that bypassed, we can actually start and run this thing with the key. Which leads me to kind of the temporary wiring stuff we have over here. So this is basically a relay and a fuse block. The owner started out with this kind of auxiliary, just basic fuse panel that he was using to run all of the transmission controller and things like that. And he had just the relays and such mounted kind of onto the side of this inner fender. And so we said, well, we're gonna have a lot more relays, and it's gonna look a lot cleaner if you get those relay blocks mounted into an actual block and not just riveted to the side. So the things that we had to add on that he hadn't done yet was the starter relay. So we have a starter relay, and then this is actually the charge relay for the external voltage regulator kit. And we have spots. You've got 4 more spots for 4 other relays, as well as some nice blade fuses. So all of the auxiliary and extra components that he's got wired to this little fuse block, this can get eliminated, and all of the relays and all of the fuses can go into this one block. So built a custom, just a simple conversion battery tray on this side, and then mounted the voltage regulator right there onto the core support. So in all of our conversions, we really try and make all this stuff just be as clean and as straightforward of an installation as we possibly can. So with that said, let's go up in the air and you guys can see the underside. Okay, now that we're underneath here, you guys can see kind of how much of that front cross member we actually trimmed out. It requires quite a bit of clearance to get this engine to set down as low as it can. And then here you can see the bottom side of our mounts. They're a direct bolt-in mount for these 34-inch wide frame chassis. There's a much better shot. Quite a few hose clamps, but there you can see the factory Cummins water inlet. It kind of comes down at a 90-degree down, and then it's just a very simple, we have a kind of a coupler and adapter fitting in there along with those all those hose clamps. And the owner is going to take almost all this stuff apart and kind of clean some of that installation details up. He didn't want us to spend a bunch of time fine-tuning that because he was going to take care of that himself. So here is our custom downpipe that we built. We were able to snake in a full 4-inch mandrel bent exhaust. Couldn't start out with a kit. A lot of times we like to start out with a diamond-die kit, but this one there just was nothing there for it. So we built a 4-inch exhaust, straight pipe, snaking it around. It's really tight clearances around all of the cross members and everything like that. So moving our way back, one of the biggest challenges that I had with this was getting the factory Ford 79 Ford shift linkage to work. So I built a custom bell crank right there, and then bought just some regular ball end type joints, and then tied it all together, and it works pretty darn well actually. So the issue is that the Ford column moves the lever in the opposite direction as the Dodge transmission needs to be moved. So I'm gonna have to do that double bell crank so that we could get the direction of the shift linkage to actually work correctly with the factory Ford column. Built a custom cross member to work with the 47RE transmission, running a factory rubber mount. Just used a piece of square tube, and then we built some gussets in on the cross member to tie into kind of existing holes that were in the frame rail, and then obviously notched it to clear the transfer case. Had to build a custom pivot bracket for the transfer case, and then extend the transfer case linkage so that it would go up through the existing hole in the floor. Advanced Adapters kind of shorted us on the adapter kit. They only sent one ring. We ended up having to get a secondary clocking ring and then machine it. You can kind of see it right there to have clearance for the shift rail. So that turned into be a little bit more of a pain in the butt than what we had hoped it would be. But all in all, everything turned out and looks really good. A custom cross member there. You can see the clocking ring and then the original adapter. Had an i5 drive line, make us up some new drive lines. They're local right here, Vancouver, Washington. There you go, i5 drive line. And straight pipe, but we did give him a muffler piece, like where the muffler would go. So if you ever did want to add a muffler, you can put it in right in that location. So more of the custom 4-inch exhaust comes out, does a little downturn, and it's black. I think it turned out really nice. And there's not a ton of room around that big Aero fuel tank. Those two big lines right there go up over top of that airbag, and then go into the fast system right here on the frame rail. And I'm kind of disappointed in this fast system because it's pretty noisy, and I'm not sure, this came out of the donor vehicle. We didn't actually buy this new, but it sure is, it's a lot louder than what I was hoping. But this Cummins is pretty thirsty, so you need to make sure you have a big pump. Tranny cooler lines came out. We adapted them over to just the regular AN, and then they snake up and go right now, utilize the original Ford in-tank cooler, but most likely after we get a little bit of miles on this thing, we're gonna add in another auxiliary cooler. So let's bring it down, and we will start it up, because we're gonna end this video on a high note and hear this thing run. All right, here we are in the truck. I'm gonna turn the key on so you guys can hopefully hear how loud that fast system is. And if you're familiar with that fast system, let me know if that's normal. Sure seems very loud to me. So here you can see our shift linkage lines right up with reverse, neutral. Then we have, this is a 4-speed transmission, so there really needs to be a overdrive indicator right there instead of just the drive. But I was happy that I was able to get park, reverse, and neutral to all work correctly with the factory Ford shifter. Good, you just gotta love that sound. This one is extremely peppy. I can't wait to actually be able to get it on the road a little bit, but we're still a little ways away from reliably being able to drive this thing around. But it's a major milestone to get to this point on a project where it starts, it runs, and it moves under its own power. So anyway, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. If you like these videos, please hit the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, tell your friends, share the videos, and thanks for watching.